Hi everyone, this is Maria from bemisreviewsbooks.com and welcome! So all of the books that I will be discussing today are currently reviewed and they are up on the blog. They are also all read-its or recommended by me. So let's get to it. First book up, The Fates Will Find Their Way by Hannah Pittard. Pittard. And I just want to mention that this was also my choice for Book of the Month for the month of January. A 16-year-old girl's mysterious disappearance calls to mind a non-stop fantasy in the minds of her male schoolmates. So this book is written solely from the point of view of her male friends. Very interesting. The story is about our sketchy past memories, the inability to ever compete with a ghost, especially a young one, and the endless number of ways that we can distract ourselves from our own lives. Highly recommended. Another great story, Things We Set on Fire by Deborah Reed. A long ago, major life decision made between a husband and wife has dire and unforeseen consequences for their two young daughters. This is a beautiful story about life, the choices we make, and the consequences we must live with. Again, highly recommended. Next up, collection of short stories, Mrs. Darcy and the Blue-Eyed Stranger by Lee Smith. The short story is not my favorite genre. However, in the hands of Smith, it was a perfectly balanced and masterful dance. I really loved what she did with these characters. Themes such as ageism, discrimination, marital strife, and even marginalization are explored from the victim's perspective. All of her protagonists are able to rise above their circumstances in some of the most unique ways, but in ways that I believe we can all relate to. All ages and walks of life are represented in this really charming collection of short stories. This has actually opened up my mind to exploring more short stories. And in fact, one of the books that I'm currently about to start is another collection of short stories. So thank you, Lee Smith. Last book up, The Perfect Stranger by Miranda. This is the first time I have ever read any of Miranda's work, and I will be following up with another book that sounds equally as exciting called All the Missing Girls. So this is the story of failed journalist Leah Stevens. Leah Stevens had a thriving career as a journalist in Boston, and due to a tragedy, which she ended up taking the fall for, she needed to start over. Her roommate and only friend suggests that they both move to Pennsylvania for a fresh start. Leah accepts, and she does start over, this time as a teacher. However, a young woman's brutal attack by a lake in front of her house sets off a new nightmare. Shortly thereafter, her roommate goes missing. And Leah needs to piece together a story that started long before she moved out to Pennsylvania. Fast-paced. I will say something about this genre. There is a lot of competition in the psychological suspense thriller genre, and this book really delivers. I think that some of the books in this genre, and this is one of my favorites, are good, and some of them are not. This book really delivers on what we have come to expect. We want nonstop action. We want a well-crafted story. We want a story that ties up all the loose ends, and we want a satisfying ending. This book delivers, in my opinion, all of those elements. Recommended. And that's it. Next up, what I am reading next. Okay. Some visuals, which, again, as you know, if you've ever watched any of my past videos, I don't always have visuals. That bugs me, but I have some now. A Drink Before the War by Dennis Lehane. I love Lehane. I've read a lot of his stuff in the past. I have not read anything for a while. This is an older book. Somehow I missed it, but it's been sitting on my to-read list for a while. I decided, let's get to it. If you are a fan of Lehane, as I am, you know that his books make great movies. Tough Boston private investigators Patrick Kenzie and Angela Gennaro investigate a corruption ring of racial incidents. Again, big fan of Lehane's past works. This book, I'm about 3/4 of the way through, does not disappoint at all. Every book has been a winner for me. Gutsy, real, confrontational. His protagonists are gritty characters with hearts of gold. I'll probably be talking about this more in the next episode. Next up, another author whose books I read over and over again. I haven't gotten through all her books. I'm surprised because I've been reading her for a number of years. I'm not going to say how many, but a long time. Jodi Picoult, Leaving Time. A woman searching for her mother. Actually, it's a young girl. It's a 13-year-old girl searching for her mother who disappeared after a tragic accident. I also love what Picoult does with animals. This story is largely about elephants. Who does not love elephants? Elephant behavior. She does kind of a pretty deep dive into elephants. And I find it really fascinating the way she ties that into the story. So also loving this book. I'm about 1/3 of the way through. This one I have not started yet. I will be starting within the next week. I'm going to try not to butcher the title. Coup de Foudre, close enough, by Ken Kalfus. This is a novella and also a collection of short stories. So you see, open-mindedness about the short story genre because of Lee Smith. Thank you, Lee Smith. I don't know anything about this. I've read the inside jacket, but I'm really, I'm waiting to get into the book before I'm able to discuss it intelligently. Hopefully I like it, so it'll make its appearance on next edition, but jury is still out because I haven't started it yet. And the last one, actually, nope, there's 2 more. Mercies in Disguise by Gina Kolata. Gina Kolata is a reporter. I have read one other book prior to this one by Kolata. She's a science reporter, and she's also a best-selling author. I read her book, Rethinking Thin. This is a book where she followed a 2-year morbidly obese weight loss study, and it was largely a book about weight loss and a lot of the myths and misconceptions of the weight loss industry. So I really liked that book. I read it a number of years ago. I picked this one up because this also sounded very intriguing to me. Mercies in Disguise is the story about one family's horrible luck in inheriting a mutated gene that is a harbinger of a tragic illness, and who would volunteer through testing to choose to know ahead of time whether or not they have this disease. This disease is fatal, it's brutal, and there's no cure. So I'm in the beginning of this book, they're actually trying to trace the illness back to its origins and isolate it, and the scientists have not been able to do that so far. So this is a disease like Alzheimer's and Huntington's combined, but it's also different. Again, brutal, fatal. Lou Gehrig's also comes to mind. Those types of severe neurological diseases that have no cure and are, very, very hard on the victim. So I have a feeling that I will also be discussing this book in next month's chat. Last book up, Worth It by Amanda Steinberg. Amanda Steinberg is the founder and CEO of dailyworth.com, which is a financial site for women with over 1 million subscribers. I actually myself am a subscriber to the site. I've been following that site for the last several months, since probably right before the holidays. And this book, I believe this is her first book, is about women, their self-worth, and money, and all the ways that is tied up together. And I'm really looking forward to, have not started it yet. I just got an advance copy of the book. I believe the publication date is February, sometime in February, and I'm really looking forward to reading this book. So that's it, everyone. That's all I've got for this month. I look forward to talking with you next month. I am sure that some of the books that I just mentioned will be on my list. And until then, goodbye, take care, and see you soon.